Well, another perspective which about the primal self just occurred to me, and I mention it very briefly in the explanation of my particular primal self, which is so my primal self had the belief that I don't trust people, and then there was like this little added part to it, which was, and I don't trust myself around people. And when I did a session with Kim, he pointed out that the statement, I don't trust myself around people, was coming from my conscious you. So, my pure consciousness, who I really, what I really am, here on earth. And there's something really profound in that. Like, it just sort of keeps coming back to me. This, kind of initially when he said it was like, oh, wow, what a revelation. But, it just keeps coming back around in circles, this concept of, not being comfortable, not liking an aspect of ourselves. And so, yeah, just the other day, a friend who's known me for, many, many years, a spiritual friend, loved me. She's loved me the whole time and everything, but she's known me, and known me very, very well. And she said that there's a big difference in me now. She said, you're now, so much more peaceful. You feel like you're a safe space. And she said, to be honest, I didn't feel that around you. I didn't feel that sense of safety before, like I'm talking a year ago or something like that. And I just sort of thought, yeah, isn't that interesting? And so, just what I want to focus on in this little talk today is that most of us really don't like our primal selves, and we don't like who we are when we're experiencing our primal selves. The number of times I hear, people sending messages, questions to Kim and everything, or speaking in discussions in conferences, and people feel rotten about, whatever it is, the pattern of their primal self, whether it's withdrawing from society, or feeling, incredibly threatened by the world, or frustrated with the self because, you don't have the courage to act out, or whatever it might be. Like, for each one of us, it's very, very different, what is going on for our primal selves and how our primal selves operate. But honestly, like, the common denominator, it really is, like, we don't like it. It's not an enjoyable experience. Like, the higher your conscious awareness becomes, it becomes really, like, obvious. Like, I know for me, like, when that popping point came, when I was just like, when it happened for the last time, I was like, I just don't want this anymore. I cannot function this way. I don't want to be acting in a way that is, my primal self was divisive, forceful. It was, built up with so much tension. I never knew what it was going to do. Like, I would just sort of, I was the one obviously who made the decisions to allow the primal self to carry out its actions. But, it was always like, God knows, spin the barrel of the gun and let's see whether the bullet comes out or not. Like, that's what it was like. It was, a real, trauma roulette game with my primal self. And that's sort of just what it is. And so, if I can just point that out to you, that, if you feel like, you're not happy with your primal self, and or, you even feel a sense of, like, not liking yourself, it's not you that you don't like, it's your primal self that you don't like, and your spirit, is ready to let go of it. And what's the first ray? What's the first, ray in the order of all the rays? It's the ray of will and power. And so you just make that decision, and I know for me, when it came time to let it go, that's what came through was, every ounce of will that, it filled every fiber of my being, which is, I will not carry this any longer. I'm going to do everything possible. I'm putting in 100% effort. I will let this die. And I was 100% confident on that. Like, I just thought, other people have done it, of course I can do it, why not? And so, and that's what it took was, just powerful will, and then just using all of the tools, all of the knowledge that I've gleaned from the masters. Because if you're listening to this video, you will have listened to the masters. Well, I hope so. And if you haven't, like, message me and I'll talk with you about it. But yeah, you've got all the knowledge, everything, all the books. Like, Kim could not have written any more books than what he has. There's enough there to get you through this. So it can be done. And also, it might be a good idea to look at, any sort of like attachment to, this attachment to the negative patterning in yourself from the primal self. It can become a bit of a, what's that thing like Stockholm syndrome, when you become attached to the kidnapper and kind of develop a relationship with it. Like, it's a bit like that, attached with this program that has hijacked your consciousness, that hijacks your consciousness regularly. And, do you really want to be attached with the hijacker, with the kidnapper? It's up to you. But, I think if you're watching this, I think you've been studying the teachings long enough to, really maybe it's time to sort of be honest with yourself and consider, what am I hanging on to, really? So, there you go. Another perspective.